Numbers 33, verses 50 through 56 says this. And the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, and say to them, When you pass over the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their figured stones, and destroy all their metal images, and demolish all their high places. And you shall take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given the land to you to possess it. You shall inherit the land by lot, according to your clans. To a large tribe you shall give a large inheritance, and to a small tribe you shall give a small inheritance. Wherever the lot falls for anyone, that shall be his. According to the tribes of your fathers you shall inherit it. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then those of them whom you let remain shall be as barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. And they shall trouble you in the land where you dwell. And I will do to you as I thought to do to them. As we conclude our series called Wanderers, we have to understand one final principle. As we look at what God's plan was for his people, for the Israelite people, we start to understand how important it is for us as believers and as God's chosen people, the people that he uses for his glory and for his purposes in the lives of other people. Think about it. God wanted to bring justice to the world. The people of Canaan were evil. They did barbaric things. They did things to others. They sacrificed babies. They hurt other countries. And it was time for their judgment. And God was going to use his people to bring that judgment on those people. But in the midst of getting his people ready, they rebelled. They did not put their trust in God. They complained, they were scared, and they wandered for 40 years. And so the world had to put up with Canaan for another 40 years. We see his purpose here in Numbers 33 as he tells the people, it is time to take out the people of Canaan. I'm going to use you. You need to rid the land of them. If you don't, they're going to be as barbs to you. They're going to be turmoil in your lives. They are going to affect your people. They're going to affect everything. In fact, we see that. We see that they didn't totally rid the land of Canaan, and we see how they are barbs to them and how they affected the people in Israel and affected their land and hurt them and made even their wives, and they started marrying them and they became their wives, and they started worshiping foreign gods, and God was jealous, and God put them in slavery because of their disobedience. But here's a principle that we need to understand. The principle is that God uses his people to show justice sometimes, to show hope, to teach the world that there is a God who loves them. There's a merciful God, but he's also a God of wrath. God uses his people to teach a broken world that there is healing, that there is hope, that there's a God who is in control. But you and I cannot be used for those purposes if we do not first obey and follow our God. When you are disobedient to God, not only do you hurt your own life, you affect others. It affects others. When we are not being used by God for his purposes, it affects not only me, not even only my family, it affects others, because I am not one with God. I'm not abiding with Jesus to bear fruit. And the fruit is what God uses to help other people. That's the principle. When you're bearing fruit, who is the fruit for? Not you. The fruit is for others. The fruit is for others. The fruit out of the people of Israel and gaining their land that was promised to them and fulfilling the promise. The fruit was God was going to use justice on the people of Canaan for the world. And so when I'm disobeying, or when I'm being stagnant and not walking in my faith and caring what God thinks, it doesn't only affect me. I'm not bearing fruit. And when I'm not bearing fruit, there's no fruit there for the world. What a principle. Something we often don't think about. It doesn't matter if I decide not to go to church. It doesn't matter if I decide I'm not going to do this or walk with God or read my Bible or pray. Those things aren't really matter. You know what? I can do it tomorrow. But when I'm not abiding, the John 15 says that I'm like a branch without the vine. I'm useless. The only good I'm for is putting in a big pile and being burned. Wow. What a principle. Stop wandering in the wilderness of sin and live Jesus' life. When I start realizing that my sin, my choices, my behavior, especially when they're off, when they're wrong, and when they're evil and they're sinful, affects others, it should do something in my heart. See, I was given the greatest gift, and you were given the greatest gift, and have been told the greatest news, that Jesus offers his life for yours. Jesus' life for yours. I can now live his life. Next week, we're going to celebrate Easter, and we're going to celebrate that life that could not be held in the grave for more than 3 days. It sprung forth to give life to a world, to give life to you, to give life to me. And that life is the life of Jesus. And his life cares for people, brings justice to those who are guilty, brings hope to those who are lost, brings healing to those who are broken. And out of all this, the crazy thought is, he uses you. He uses me. If we'll obey, if we'll follow him. The people needed 40 years to figure that out before God used them, before God brought them into the land to show justice to the world. It's what God wanted out of Israel. He wanted a people, a chosen people, so that he could show his power, his divine attributes to the world through them. They failed. You and I don't have to. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, and understand that I can live a life through the life of Jesus. How? The first step is wanting to. First step is committing, saying, Jesus, I want to be done with all this junk in my life, and I want you. I want to follow you. I want to search out what your word says. I want to spend time quietly in prayer thinking about you. Guys, it all starts up in the mind. And if we just go, yeah, that's a great principle, and then move on, we've missed it. It starts with what you do first thing tomorrow morning, and then Tuesday morning, and the next morning. And as we start to walk with him and follow him and learn from him and put ourselves under his mighty wings, we will affect the world. We will affect our families. The fruit that will bear from our lives will bring change to a hurting, dying world. What a mission. What an opportunity. Wow. Are you on board? Go into your time now and discuss this principle of God's, and see how you and our church can bear fruit to change and help a hurting world.